Bill, I know we have this beautiful high school class back there, and I'll give you, just from a vice president to the high school seniors, I'll give you guys just a little bit of relationship advice from a man who's been happily married for 11 years. Find yourself somebody who loves you as much as national Democrats love giving health care benefits to illegal aliens. That's my advice for you. Because it is, as far as I can tell, the reason why the National Democratic Party exists. Do you know that this bill makes tens of billions of dollars in investments in our rural health care infrastructure, which was fallen apart under the last administration? This legislation guarantees that hardworking Americans are going to have access to their Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid benefits. What this bill refuses to do, and what Republicans absolutely refuse to do, is to give your hard-earned benefits to people who don't have the legal right to be in this country to begin with. It is very simple. And if you want to protect the people's benefits, if you want to protect rural health care, if you want to make sure that whether you live in a big city or a small town, you have the ability to go and see a doctor, and that is exactly what we want to do, then the first thing you ought to be doing is making sure that the people who get federal health care benefits actually have the right to be in this country in the first place. That is the first and most important step. And that's what this legislation did. So don't believe the lies and don't believe the attacks. What we are doing with this legislation is giving you a tax cut and trying to rebuild the healthcare infrastructure of this country that got decimated under Joe Biden's leadership. But what we are also doing, in order to preserve the benefits that you paid into for your entire lives, is making sure those benefits only go to our fellow American citizens and not to people who ought to go back to their home country because they're here in this country illegally. It's very simple. And think about this. Think about the math, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot have these health care benefits if you allow tens of millions of people into this country who have no legal right to be here and give them those benefits. We were on the freight train to bankruptcy under Joe Biden's leadership because we had a Democratic Party that didn't care enough about this country to actually enforce our borders. And it's that simple. And so when I see the Democrats, I got to be honest with you, it makes me a little bit angry. When I see Democrats fighting against cutting your taxes and saying it's about health care, it's not about health care for you, it's about health care for illegal aliens. And we happen to believe in a different principle. You ought to keep more of your hard-earned money. That if you work overtime, you ought to be rewarded for it. And that when you pay into the federal system, you receive those benefits and not anybody who didn't pay into them to begin with.